Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Cloud ERP, where we dive deep into the minds shaping enterprise technology and innovation. This special edition podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Let's Talk Data podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Frank McGrory. Today's episode is a special one. We're thrilled to have David Robinson join us, a seasoned leader with over 2 decades of experience at SAP. From startups to the boardroom, from products to sales, and now driving transformation as the president of Cloud ERP. David's seen the evolution of enterprise software firsthand, and today he shares insights on what's changed, what hasn't, and why every company, regardless of industry, is now a tech company. We'll explore the journey to Cloud ERP, the mind shift to consumption over implementation, and what it means to be in a persistent state of innovation. We don't have a lot of time, so let's get rolling. Hey, David, welcome to the pod.
Hey, Jen, great to be here. Thank you.
I got to tell you, I am so excited for you to be featured on the pod with me today. I might be one of your biggest fans. Whether you're speaking live or I catch the recording, when I hear that you've got something out there, I always try to go find it. And I always find that you've got such great insight and wisdom to provide to me personally, and now today with our audience. So I'm so thrilled to have you. Can we start by you providing the listeners with a little bit of an overview of your SAP career and what you're spending time doing today?
Sure. And thank you again, Jen, for the invite, and I look forward to the conversation. I just was reflecting, I've come up on my 22nd year here at SAP, and prior to SAP, I was actually at startups. So when I flipped from a startup world that was 6 to 100 people into SAP at the time, it was around 30,000 employees. I thought, wow, culture shock. Massive company, couldn't get much bigger. Here we are today, 2025, so much bigger, so much more critical in the market. I spent a lot of time, actually, I've had a really great kind of path here at SAP. It's one of the great things of SAP, frankly. I spent original time in product management, product engineering, and SAP labs, and then found my way actually into the industry team, into a sales function. Was an industry account executive for a couple of years. I worked as a chief of staff for North America for a while. I led sales for North America for our finance. Yeah, you remember that? Yeah. So it's just been, it's like every one of these experiences is kind of like almost shaped kind of a moment, but then kind of gave me a chance for the next step on trying something new. So yeah, I ended up after that particular North America role. Spent more time in sales, spent time actually doing a lot of go-to-market build programs, operating programs, did some work with Google, did some work with Microsoft, was part of the original RISE launch team, and then eventually took over as president for Cloud ERP RISE with SAP in July of 2023. And so it has been quite a journey.
Absolutely. Now, you've had, yes, I've bumped into you over the years, and you definitely have had a varied career at SAP. Could you spend some time talking about some of the most notable changes that you've seen with our customers and SAP over the last 20 years?
Sure. When I came into SAP, SAP was seen as the leader in the ERP market. That leadership position has not changed, as we've seen most recently from some analyst announcements and some updates. What has changed is actually the breadth of the portfolio, frankly, well beyond just ERP. And, back for those that recall, kind of in the mid-2000s, there was a real momentum acceleration into Business Suite at that time. And that Business Suite function really allowed us to kind of lead with kind of a best of suite approach. And I was reflecting on that actually earlier this year as we were kind of doubling down on kind of AI first and suite first type of an outlook around the go-to-market and the strategy. And the customer requirements haven't changed. The conversations with customers have actually been very, very similar in terms of what they're looking for from a partnership with SAP and any other large enterprise tech vendor. They want to make sure that we're continuing to deliver value. They want us to speak both to the tech, the IT organization, but also to the business around new business processes and new value creation. They want us to continue to take the complexity out of their business, and that complexity includes the IT complexity. So both business process complexity and IT management complexity have to be there hand in hand. And really just SAP is the center point. I call it kind of the mission critical foundation for their enterprise. That hasn't changed that much. What's changed is the environment, whether it's, the emergence of client server technology and multi-tier technologies, the emergence of the internet, the emergence of cloud capabilities. All of those types of things have enabled markets to compete more effectively. And, we've seen so much change just in the world and how the world operates, how businesses function, how new companies come to be, and how those companies grow. Kind of the prevalence of technology today is a prerequisite for any sort of successful business launch, growth phase, operating phase, spin out phase, divestiture phase. All of that is now so much more technology focused than it ever has been before. So I think that's really what's changed is the interplay and the interoperability or the interdependency rather of technology and just business.
Right, because every company now has a component where they are a technology company.
Correct. Every company has to be a technology company, has to understand software. I don't think I've bought anything in my home that doesn't come with some sort of an app. And if that app doesn't work the way that I expect it to work, the whole hardware, whether it's a washer machine or whether it's a refrigerator or whether it's my speaker system, everything is so software dependent, software oriented today. And that actually extends into the expectations, I think, that all of us, and certainly our customers and those that work out in the business space, they all have an expectation that technology should be much more consumable, should be much more intuitive, and should start to be less seen as something independent of the business process or the application, the work to be done or the product to be sold. And that's something that's very different today than was in the past.
100%. I mean, as you just said, all my appliances are app run as well. So there's no doubt that why cloud, right? And more specifically, why cloud ERP has widely been discussed. But for many of our customers, they're still on that journey, and other customers haven't started yet. So what are the key barriers that you're seeing out there in the field?
It's interesting. Well, I would say, and this is something that's new for me to say this, and I think that every customer is on a journey to the cloud. Every customer is on a journey now. And I don't think that was the case even maybe 2-3 years ago, but today that's the case.
Agreed.
The question is, what does that journey look like? And what is their North Star? Where are they going with their cloud transformation? And why are they doing it? Are they doing it because they need to take cost out of the IT operation? Are they doing it because they don't have certain capabilities that their business function requires? Are they doing it because all their peers are doing it and they don't want to be left behind? I think it's a little bit of all the above. But I still see the biggest barrier to what I call optimized cloud journey, to really accelerate the journey and to not continue to invest time and money and resources in things that aren't generating true value. I think that really requires a real partnership with the technology vendors. And I think, again, SAP certainly at the center point of that kind of partnership dynamic. We've got relationships with hyperscalers, all of the global hyperscalers. We have relationships with the largest GSSPs, the integrators that actually configure and do a lot of the work to make these applications come to life within the enterprise. And then certainly a whole world of other software companies that help kind of close gaps or provide industry capabilities that might be really, really unique to a certain customer. So I think everyone is on a journey. And I think what they want to hear from SAP is the best way to take that journey. And what are the best practices and the guiding principles? And we've been amplifying this really, really well, especially in the last 6 months or so, 6 to 12 months, I'd say. The importance of clean core, but also a common understanding of what is clean core. If we're having debates over what is clean core, we're that's interesting. But I think everyone that debate's been pretty much ended. I think now the question is, how do we provide customers tools and best practices and certainly enable a partner ecosystem to make that clean core principle a reality, and how to ingrain those principles into their ongoing operating model. And that's just one of many inputs to a successful journey.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, We're spot on, spot on. So at SAP, we have our AI first and our suite first strategy. Could you describe how Cloud ERP sits in as part of that strategy?
So Cloud ERP, and we really have to make a distinction here, and I'll go back to some longstanding conversations I've had for years now. So this is not cutting edge. It's not the latest insight.
Right.
I've always said there's a big difference between running an ERP system on a cloud infrastructure and consuming an ERP capability as a cloud service. And that has always been true. That remains true today. And that's really the biggest difference between a lot of customers that are running on-premise ERP applications, on-premise architecture, on-premise kind of lifecycle management, a lot of the resourcing, a lot of the ways that the ecosystem engages. All of that is really there based on decades of successful engagement with implementing, configuring, maintaining ERP systems. That is so different in cloud. And so when SAP talks about, or when I talk about cloud ERP, it's really to be really clear that when we're talking about an ERP environment, in this case, S/4HANA Cloud, that's designed to be delivered, consumed as a cloud service, that is a foundation of any customer to truly shift their IT operating model and to truly leverage a business suite that's designed, delivered, consumed as a cloud service. And the more on-premise applications and the more on-premise capabilities and operating services that you put into your IT organization, the more you're going to sub-optimize the aggregate value of cloud. And so starting with ERP, and in this case, cloud ERP, it needs to be really clear. Cloud ERP is the center point, is a foundation of any successful enterprise transformation that shifts from an on-premise suite or an on-premise based estate to an end-to-end cloud delivered estate. And when we talk about suite first, AI first, what we're talking about is everyone understands AI is going to change the way we all work, the way that software companies develop software, the way that customers consume the software, the way that work will be done the world over. We need to make sure that that stays in the forefront of everything that we do. Our conversations with customers, our discussions around architecture, our discussions around sequencing of refactoring their on-premise estate to cloud estate. And so an AI first, suite first strategy, I don't say it's not that it's something new. We have customers that have been doing this themselves for the last few years.
Right.
Now our ability to formalize that and make that a meaningful, a deliberate part of our engagement with customers will make that all the more likely for our customers to be successful transitioning to cloud suite, to business suite delivered as a cloud service. But it also brings more scale, and it also helps kind of SAP's engagement to the places where we know the market is heading or has headed, rather than to continue to invest in things that have already been kind of determined or obsolete or on their way out in terms of operating principles or old on-premise methodologies.
I love that statement. I love that what you just talked about with respect to design, delivered, and consumed as a cloud service. I think that
Yep.
really is a huge part of the mind shift that needs to occur.
Yeah, and that's for everything across the suite. It's not just for Cloud ERP. It's not just for S/4HANA Cloud. It's for all the other cloud assets within the suite. It sounds simple, but again, we have customers and we have partners in the ecosystem that have invested in and have conditioned, they have muscle memory around on-premise. And if you've done something well and successfully for decades, it's hard to change. And we have to show up and not just tell them they have to change, but we have to show them the value proposition of the change, of why the change is so important for them and their continued realization of value to be derived from the applications we provide them. But we also have to provide tools and best practices and engagement methodologies. And that's why CS&D in particular is so important, because we're showing up, not trying to sell them more stuff. We're showing up to help them understand the architecture, to make them successful as a consumer of Business Suite. And the more we show up prepared, and the more they understand, and the more they're confident that they make decisions based on our guidance,
Mm-hmm.
we're all going to be successfully headed in the right direction together.
So let's shift gears a little bit. You talk about, and not shift gears, but like kind of like move a little bit forward now. You talk often about this concept of a persistent state of innovation. What do you
Yep.
mean by that, and how is that message resonating with the customers that you're talking to?
Yeah, this kind of popped into my head years ago. I'm going to have to find out and if I can go locate an old podcast from many years ago. It came out of some conversations I had with some really large Fortune 100 customers. It was about 4 or 5 customers, and I saw a pattern in the conversations. The pattern was that they got this. When we would show up and talk about Rise with SAP, or when we would talk about S/4HANA Cloud and the benefits of cloud, and they would say, listen, they agree with all that, but they believe that they are able to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a lot of time to understand that it's not just about doing it yourself or being self-sufficient. It's about leveraging what I call comparative advantage. What are the things that you as a business should be doing with your time? And who are the resources you should hire and retain? And what's the work that they should do? And how is all of that going to make you a better company? And how does that differentiate you as a business and make you more successful and competitive? That's really a fundamental conversation. It's not about, upgrades and end of maintenance and all that kind of stuff. That's a business conversation about how do you want to operate as a business, and how does IT as a function in that business best serve the business? The less time customers are spending and IT organizations within a customer are spending on maintaining the application and trying to keep it current and applying support patches and enhancement packages and keeping it up to date and securing more funding for the next upgrade. You're on a treadmill, basically.
Right.
And the treadmill of just trying to implement, go live, that it's like a relief that you could go live. And the relief was you could go live on a certain date. Well, to go live on a certain date shouldn't be the success criteria. The success criteria should be how quickly can your business get benefit from the use of the applications that were activated. So it kind of shifted how I thought and how I spoke about our customers' value proposition of moving to cloud ERP in this case. And that is, if they weren't investing time, resources in implementations and in
Right.
upgrades, and if they could never have to do another upgrade again, could they be in a persistent, innovative state? One in which it's the fastest possible time between when the business identifies a new requirement or a new innovation, and how quickly can that be identified and activated and consumed within the estate. And if that takes years to do an upgrade to get to the latest version in order to activate, customers have missed the window of what they're trying to do around the new feature or function. But if we're able to make that an accelerated process and make it more about activation, not about implementation, it puts the customer technically in that persistent, innovative state, one that's focused on innovation, not on implementation. And that's really that was the genesis, was a lot of great customer conversations. And frankly, it still rings true today.
Totally, 100%. When you just said the go live is not the end all be all, I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. It isn't. It isn't. It's making sure that you've got all the right pieces and parts and everything configured and tested and all that, and it is able to be sent into production where users are able to, do their job in the most efficient way possible, and that's going to drive adoption.
Yep, totally.
So, what do you think are the main success criteria for our customers that as they look at driving transformation programs? And then what does the word transformation really mean to you?
Success criteria for customers, and I don't want to make this overly tactical, but I also don't want to make it so high level that it's like
Right.
a statement of the obvious. Yeah, it's interesting. First and foremost, we have a very well adopted RISE methodology. When I say well adopted, I mean customers that are already on board with this idea of clean core principles. They truly understand that they want to drive a transformation, and they want to spend less time figuring it out and more time applying best practices and standards to their application environments, to how they implement new technologies, how they extend those technologies, how they integrate those technologies with other parts of their estate and with third parties. All of that really, in my mind, falls into two very simple buckets. There's standard versus differentiation. And the question is, if you're going to do anything that is not standard, does it truly differentiate you? Does it truly provide you value? Or does it just perpetuate an old process that may be out of date or may not be delivering as much value? And focusing on everything that you used to do is not the best way to replicate a new environment when you have a chance to clean house, when you have a chance to get back to standard and to almost reset and get the benefits of a rollback of your operating model, so that you can start thinking differently about, okay, when the business comes with a new requirement, how do I respond as an IT leader? I've seen some great customers. One that always comes to mind, it's Michael over at Henkel, does an incredible job talking about this. But what I've heard from him is his ability to stand up a digital function inside Henkel, very large European CPG company. And standing up a digital function allows his team to get practice, to get experience, to get repeatability of expertise around extensibility, around incorporating innovation services into their estate, into working more closely and having more intimacy with the business, helping kind of brainstorm and prioritize and strategize with the business. That is a very, very different function. And that would not be possible if there was a need for resourcing in IT to maintain thousands, tens of thousands, in some cases, millions of lines of custom code that some may or may not even be needed any longer. And most certainly is now part of a standard offering, such as S4 or the other parts of the suite. And so how do we help our customers, look at that? So the transformation is not just a business transformation, it's an IT operating model transformation. And in thinking about and seeing customer examples, that's what's so great about today, 2025, and that's what's different than 2021, is we have the examples now.
Yeah.
We have the references now. And we have really, really good stories. Certainly, I know that we have Sapphire coming up yet again, both in Orlando and Madrid. Great customer stories about not just how they implemented S/4HANA Cloud, and they did so leveraging a RISE methodology, but what that means for their rate of innovation. And what does it mean in terms of what's next? And honestly, what's next for almost every one of those customers that's live on Suite or live on Cloud ERP, S/4HANA Cloud? It's AI. It's training new models. It's getting expertise and experience in AI. It's experimenting, and it's figuring out where AI is going to make the difference and differentiate them as a business in the future. So those customers that are already on the journey have already gone through a lot of the digesting of technical debt and the activation of new cloud services and really adopting the end-to-end cloud suite. Those customers are at a huge advantage now, but we're not going to leave any of the other customers behind. They have very valid reasons that they may only now be getting started, or they may have gotten started, but they may have gotten started in other parts of their business, not in terms of like a big bang approach. So that's really where I ask customers, where they are with their transformation, what are the guiding principles of their transformation, how much do they want to leverage methodologies, principles that are well established principles, and get back to a fit to standard, fit to suite approach. All of that conversation is really, really important to have right now, and getting customers to get started on their transformations grounded in those principles is really important.
So I have a question on that. So that fit to standard and fit to suite, how do you find that, I mean, several years ago, everyone was like, well, I have, and I got to do this, I got to do that. How do you find that conversation has evolved as our solutions have evolved?
Certainly. Well, I think a couple of things have improved today. Again, 2025 is different than 2021.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, there's the experience we have. So now we know not to talk about it as innovation as a service or transformation as a service. We know what customers that have gone first have realized as the benefits. We've captured those benefits. We've captured those lessons from those customers, and we've incorporated them, and we've continued to, add to, complement, the methodologies, in this case, the RISE methodology, to really make sure that customers don't just say, hey, this is what SAP is recommending because it's in SAP's interest. It's proven that this is how successful enterprises run end-to-end cloud delivered estates, and where Business Suite from SAP certainly plays a foundational role of their enterprise estate. That's today much more documented, much more proven. We have more and more peer-to-peer references available today than we had before. And I think the market momentum is with us. I think a lot of these questions around, hey, I ran the workload. I've moved my workload out of my data center into a hyperscaler. I'm good now for my cloud transformation. I think that's been fairly well disproven in the market in terms of being the end zone.
Right.
I think those customers are now coming back to us saying, yeah, that took out a lot of cost around my IT infrastructure, but it hasn't really made me more agile or innovative. And so that's what's so different today, is a lot of the learning and experience of both we, SAP, our partners, and most certainly our customers have had in the last 4 to 5 years.
Right. Wow. Really cool. I've really enjoyed talking with you today. I love your statements, like persistent state of innovations, thinking differently, being meaningful and deliberate. These are all really awesome just clips to consider when you're in the heat of the battle in these business conversations. So before we close out, do you have any closing comments or parting wisdom you'd like to share before we sign off?
Well, first, thank you. Enjoyed the conversations, Jen. And I look forward to kind of listening to this and more podcasts in the future. I think the real key here is that every customer has their own journey. And that's really going to be important for us to remember every time we show up and have a customer conversation. This isn't a cookie cutter. We do have a North Star. We do have a horizontal view. We know directionally we want customers, and we know that customers, when they get to an end-to-end cloud suite from SAP, they're optimized in terms of their value proposition, their operating costs, and certainly their innovation. But we have to understand that everyone will have a different starting point, and there will be different constraints along their unique journey. So my biggest recommendation is something I have to remember myself a lot, is just listen. Prepare, listen to the customer, listen to what are their constraints. Everyone agrees that they want to be more agile and innovative and take out cost of IT and reduce complexity and take out risk. And everyone agrees with that. But there's reasons, and in a lot of cases, there's practical good reasons. There's regulatory issues. There's an acquisition that was unexpected. There's there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, especially today, as we know right now, in kind of the current events. So just listen and understand, like, how do we best shape and model a unique journey to cost and risk manage that customer's unique journey. And SAP's done a great job providing enough space, flexibility in the methodology to take account for the different rate of change that customers are willing to go through to get to that North Star. We've brought in a whole range of transformation credits and commercial incentives, and there's just a lot of things that we've understood now that SAP is investing in to make that a very cost and risk managed journey and help every one of those customers get on the right track with their transformation journey. And just listening to what are the constraints. I've learned we pretty much either have addressed those issues with other customers in the past, or we've got some new capabilities and offerings that are purposely designed to take away those barriers to moving forward with an AI first and suite first type of journey. So those are my closing thoughts. But thank you, Jen. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Me too. Thank you. We look forward to, I'll be continuing to be one of your biggest fans and continue to catch all your recordings, especially this one after it's published. But thanks so much, David, and we'll talk to you soon.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Let's Talk Cloud ERP. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue in a smaller, more interactive session, I would like to invite you to sign up for a value exploration workshop. This 2.5-hour interactive call to action session curated for both IT and business leaders will enable you to interact directly with SAP S/4HANA through our SAP S/4HANA ERP simulation game. The simulation game will demonstrate how you can have greater control of your business processes by having members of your team from across business functions such as finance, sales, marketing, and procurement work together to showcase the true power of SAP S/4HANA. The really cool thing about this game is you get the chance to compete and show your team's full profitability potential against other teams. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Value Exploration Workshop and upcoming dates. Finally, I would like to thank the Let's Talk Data podcast for their partnership. We couldn't do what we do without them. Until next time, I am Jennifer Frank McGrory. Have a great rest of your day.